Hello everybody, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be checking out more Salmonella. You guys have requested this video for a while. It's called Joshua Norton, the Only United States Emperor. I don't know what that means. I've been through a lot of schooling. I've never heard of an American emperor. I've heard of an American empire. I am familiar with that. We got that going on, but nobody who takes the title of emperor. So I'm not sure exactly what this could mean. I have theories going into this. When I hear that title, I think of the chaos of the territories and a lot of the wackos that were just coming out of nowhere and taking significant power during the territories. Not like grand scale, we're gonna start our own state power, but it's more like they would come in and they would have significant influence in like these small confined areas. But an emperor, this should be interesting. I'm very excited to figure out what's this about, man. What's it all about? Let's check it out.
This video is sponsored by Wix. Hey kids, let me ask you, do you watch the news often? Have you attended a school in your life? You ever look at a dollar? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then chances are you're familiar with at least a couple United States presidents. But if you're like me prior to last week, you've probably never heard of a United States emperor. Excuse me, good sir, but I should inform you that we're actually living under an emperor as we speak, at least according to my degree from the University of Reddit. Hey, that's great. Whoa, look over there. It's someone criticizing Elon Musk. And he's making typos.
I feel like I get this way more than I used to before I did YouTube. There are people who will tear apart everything you say, and as somebody who like speaks kind of freely, I don't like dealing with jargon too much. I try to be as plain spoken as possible. Sometimes I end up saying things that if you really want to, you can do that. But my God, it makes me want to tear their head off. And I am a peaceful man.
Anyway, let me tell y'all a story about a man named Joshua Norton. Norton was born in England at some point in the 1810s. Very little is known about the guy's younger years other than the fact that he spent most of his youth in South Africa as part of the UK's colonization programs. He came to San Francisco in 1849 with a modest amount of wealth to his name and worked his way up in the real estate and commodities markets to become one of the city's wealthiest citizens. All was normal in the life of Mr. Norton, until one day when he got a little too big for his britches. You see, in 1852, China was facing a huge famine, so they completely banned the export of rice. Naturally, San Fran's rice price began to skyrocket in response to the reduced supply, peaking at 36 cents per pound. Norton saw this and decided to buy a $25,000 rice shipment from Peru at 12 cents per pound, thinking he'd corner the market. Keep in mind, that's around $750,000 in today's money. Little did he know that wasn't the only shipment coming out of Peru, and by the time he was able to sell it, rice was already back down to 3 cents a pound. Now, according to my calculations, that put Norton at a net loss of a whole frickin' lot. He subsequently got into a years-long court battle with the vendor who sold him the shipment, which only cost him more money, and
I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot of legal ground there, does he? I mean, unless there was some sort of a way in which he was misled throughout the whole thing, but he seemed like he was willing to take advantage of a trend in the market that other people had the ability to notice, and it didn't work out for him. So it is what it is. I don't think there's any legal argument there. Like, he would have to have something very specific about his transaction that would actually give him any grounds in court. I don't know.
Ultimately left the man destitute. So, Norton did what anybody would do after losing everything. He drank a nice hefty dose of fuck it all and said, you know what?
You know what? Before we get to this, sorry, let me go back just a smidge. If there's any time to be destitute, it's like the second half of the 19th century, roughly, because we used to have debtor's prison. So if you owe somebody a debt and you fail to pay, you get thrown in debtor's prison. You can still be thrown in prison for not paying your debts. There are ways, but apparently they have been deemed unconstitutional. And it's kind of a weird concept. Okay, you throw somebody in prison until they can pay their debt back, but what are they gonna do in prison about raising money to pay their debt back? So they figured out, oh, that's stupid. It doesn't seem like this guy is gonna have to deal with that, so that's fortunate at least.
The man destitute. So Norton did what anybody would do after losing everything. He drank a nice hefty dose of fuck it all and said, you know what? The courts can eat my shorts, the house can eat my blouse, Peru can eat my shoe. I declare myself emperor of these United States. And I'm telling every newspaper in the city about it. And then he did. Now
I mean, if he's going to proclaim himself emperor, he at least said it right at the time. Before the Civil War, they referred to the United States as these United States, as if we're a whole bunch of things. Like, theoretically, we are, like, a whole bunch of states that make up one thing, but now, like in a post-Civil War world, we call ourselves the United States because the whole Civil War concept kind of solidified us as one thing and kind of, yeah. So that was the whole deal with that. But before that, we were these United States. I'd be the president of these United States because there is many, and I be over all them.
The papers could have just been like, what a lunatic, and that would have been the end of it. But instead they said, you know what, this guy's kind of a meme. Let's publish his declaration just for gits and shiggles. People across the city had their laughs, and Norton's rise to power began. From here, he issued several more commands to the media, and unlike nowadays, people loved having regular Norton updates shoved in their face. Among these announcements was a decree in 1859 to formally abolish the United States Congress. He also gave out a mandate to both...
Okay, this top one's a quote, this top one's not a quote, okay? I want to read the actual quote. Whereas a body of men calling themselves the National Congress are now in session in Washington City in violation of our Imperial Edict of the 12th of October last, declaring said Congress abolished. Okay.
Both the Protestant and Roman Catholic churches to formally ordain him as emperor. Although these edicts were ultimately ignored by the powers they were addressed to, they still served to build Norton's reputation around the city, and before long he was a fully fledged local celebrity. He was easily recognized by passerby, typically sporting a blue naval uniform and a beaver hat with a peacock feather in it. Pretty soon, Norton could expect to receive the royal treatment wherever he went. People started to address him formally on the streets, he got to ride public transport for free, and he even got occasional tax payments from people sympathetic to his impoverished living situation. Oh, and get this, Norton became so famous that toy stores in the city began selling dolls of the man for kids to play with. How many people can you think of that were so legendary that they got dolls made after them? You got...
So at first I was having trouble understanding exactly... Let me go back. I was having a little trouble understanding the seriousness of this guy, because there are plenty of people who... in early American history, had aspirations in the West and thought, hey, I'm going to start up my own civilization. We're going to step up. We're going to be our own little thing. That happened all the time. It almost always got... It did always get absorbed into the greater United States. A lot of them were like these religious utopias, so those aren't the best examples for this. But like, it's not unheard of that somebody might try to establish something in some serious manner. But this guy seems like he's lost his mind. And I guess I've seen some cases where people kind of lose everything and it just starts to go. He seemed like he was perfectly in his mind at the beginning of the video, so it's kind of hard to figure out where that break occurs. I guess living on the street is going to do that to you sometimes. I mean, I'll see homeless people, and sometimes I'll see them for extended periods of time. Sometimes I'll see them for years in the same place, and it could just be the wear and tear, but there's something in a lot of their, and this isn't completely anecdotal, there's something that seems to like go away. There is something in their sanity that I can see kind of slipping sometimes in a few examples. Like I said, totally anecdotal, but as somebody who's never lived on the street, never had to go without, I guess I'd never really get it.
How many people can you think of that were so legendary that they got dolls made after them? You got Emperor Norton, Mr. T, and the bear that Teddy Roosevelt decided not to shoot. That's it, really.
Very nice.
Also, though not backed by actual law in any way, his declarations came to be taken relatively seriously by the populace around him. For example, according to Norton, saying Frisco instead of San Francisco would be punishable by a $25 fine. Talk to any Frisco native and you'll find that this attitude survives to this day. With the help of a local printing firm, Norton even issued his own currency, which was actually accepted by many residents of the city, despite having no backing behind it whatsoever. In fact, a few Norton bucks are still floating around today as highly valued collector's items. I tried doing the same thing a while back, but unfortunately, Onella rubles are still only worth their weight in Onella rubles. Of course,
That's actually a really cool collectible. I'm curious to how much they even value those sort of things. Maybe it's time. I mean, we've been talking about digital currencies for a while now. Maybe we should make the Norton coin. We got Bitcoin, we got Dogecoin. Maybe it's time for the Norton coin. Maybe that's the thing that everybody can get behind. Clearly, he had a certain level of charisma. Maybe we could all unite under Norton. Wouldn't that be ironic? That would be pretty ironic if we did that down the line.
It wasn't all magpies and molasses for our good friend Josh. He was once arrested by a policeman named Armand Barbier, who wanted to throw him in an asylum for his apparent insanity. Needless to say, when the public caught wind of this, they lost their fucking minds. Irate citizens wrote complaints in droves. All the newspapers published scathing editorials towards the police department. Stray cats were thrown into wood chippers. I don't have any evidence for that last one. I'm just, assuming based on what I would do in this scenario. Anyway, pretty soon, the chief of police got the memo, and Emperor Norton was released unscathed. Thankfully, Norton issued a royal pardon towards the man who arrested him, and from that point onward, whenever Norton passed a member of the force, they would stop and salute him. So, although in many ways he appeared godlike, Norton was but a mortal, and as mortals sometimes do, Emperor Norton decided to drop dead on a street corner on January 8th of 1880. However, he left behind.
So 1880, this guy was around during the Civil War. He was claiming to be emperor during the Civil War. I wonder what he was thinking when that broke out. I wonder if he thought like his country was at war, or were these three different factions? There was the Union, the Confederacy, and the Nortonites. Did he think he had armies out there? Like, how lost was this guy? That's fascinating.
A legacy, the likes of which most of us could only dream of. Beyond just the comedic value of his many exploits, Norton definitely had his prophetic moments, with some of his orders actually coming true decades after they were given. On multiple occasions, he ordered a bridge to be built between San Francisco and the Oakland Bay Area, which was eventually constructed in the 1930s. He also told people to form a League of Nations to uphold international interests. Unfortunately, a man yelling in California wasn't quite enough to convince the leaders of the world that such a thing was necessary. But who knows? Maybe little Nordo could have stopped World War I if he had been just a bit louder. I hope this tale has inspired some of you young impressionable kids out there, not because I expect any of you to succeed in the same way Norton did, but just because it's my personal belief that the world could always use more oddball vagrants. Wait a minute. Oddball vagrants.
Oh.
Product placement. Sponsor time. Question. Do you do literally anything? If the answer is yes, then chances are you could get a lot of use out of a website powered by Wix. You can give your small business the professional makeover it deserves, or show off your art and other hobbies in any style or layout you can imagine. Even if you don't do anything with your life, then hey, today's as good a day as any to try your hand at web development. Wix does all the heavy lifting.
I could do a website where I declare myself president. and it's out there, and if I just insist on it hard enough, we live in like a postmodern world, like enough people would go along with it that I could get something out of that, right?
For you, meaning even a novice can create stunning pages of all shapes and sizes. Beyond just the aesthetic aspect, Wix also offers tons of other services for your site, like custom domain names and email services. Oh, and did I mention it's free? So please, try Wix today. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
That was pretty wacky. I like that. It's one of those stories that I'm unsatisfied with the level of detail here, and I'm gonna have to look into it more, because we're just getting Norton's perspective. We're getting kind of like a vague idea of how people responded to him, but I can't tell how ironic it is, how much are they memeing it up? Do they pity the poor guy? Are there enough wackos out there that some people like want an American emperor, and they're like, hey, this guy seems to have his ship together. I mean, he's got stuff going on. He's got a Navy uniform. Yeah, like, I don't know. I'll at least peruse his Wikipedia page after this. That's at least enough there. I was interested in this one because you guys said it was like 19th century America, and it took place like starting in like 1950s or something like that, and like we're starting to get a little bit away from like what I typically focus on. I do like the first half of the 19th century, but this is while this is very abnormal, it does kind of speak to some of the wackos that emerged during the 19th century. Like, when you have this, because we have a lot of places that are still, like, settling and getting everything, like, fully set up. We don't have, like, all of our states fully set up by the time the Civil War breaks out, so we've got some time. We've got some crazy stuff that happens. We've got a bunch of cults hanging out in the West, like having sex with each other and claiming to be Jesus and whatever the given cult happens to believe. There's so much there. So this isn't the weirdest thing, but it's really weird. So it's got that going for it. I like this. All right, let me know if you guys have anything else you want me to check out. Any other wacky videos you think I might like, because I really like this one. I thought this was pretty cool. And it was light, and there were no jump scares in this one. That's an interesting thing. There's usually like a screaming part in every Salmonella thing, or something where it gets loud and startles me. We didn't get that here. Isn't that interesting? All right, I've rambled. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. All right, bye.